5:3 Implementation and Execution, 5.3 Monitoring and Evaluation. Establishing performance benchmarks and implementing monitoring processes are essential for assessing the effectiveness of sector rotation strategies. Here are some key steps to consider. Define performance benchmarks. Determine appropriate benchmarks to evaluate the performance of your sector rotation strategy. These benchmarks can include broad market indices, sector-specific indices, or customized blended indices that align with your investment objectives. The benchmarks should be representative of the sectors you are rotating in and provide a comparison for assessing the strategy's performance. Set performance objectives. Establish clear performance objectives for your sector rotation strategy. These objectives should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART. For example, you may set a goal to outperform the benchmark index by a certain percentage or achieve a target annualized return over a specified time period. Track portfolio performance. Regularly monitor the performance of your sector rotation portfolio against the established benchmarks. Keep track of key performance metrics such as total return, annualized return, risk-adjusted return, and sector allocation performance. Use portfolio management tools or investment platforms that allow for accurate and timely tracking of performance. Conduct performance analysis. Analyze the performance of your sector rotation strategy over different time horizons. Market conditions and economic cycles. Assess the performance of individual sectors within the rotation strategy to identify areas of strength and weakness. Conduct attribution analysis to understand the contribution of sector selection and timing decisions to overall performance. Compare against benchmark. Compare the performance of your sector rotation strategy against the selected benchmarks. Calculate relative performance measures such as excess return, tracking error, and information ratio to evaluate how effectively your strategy has performed compared to the benchmark. Consider both absolute and relative performance to gain a comprehensive understanding of the strategy's effectiveness. Evaluate risk-adjusted returns. Assess the risk-adjusted returns of your sector rotation strategy by calculating risk metrics such as volatility, Sharpe ratio, Sortino ratio, and maximum drawdown. Risk-adjusted measures provide insights into the level of risk taken to achieve the returns and help evaluate the efficiency of the strategy in managing risk. Regular review and adjustment. Continuously review the performance of your sector rotation strategy and make adjustments as needed. Assess whether the strategy aligns with changing market conditions, economic outlook, and sector dynamics. Consider incorporating feedback from performance analysis into refining your sector selection and rotation process. Document and learn. Maintain records of the performance analysis and the lessons learned from each evaluation period. Document the factors that contributed to successful rotations and those that led to underperformance. This documentation will help refine your strategy over time and improve decision-making in future sector rotations. By establishing performance benchmarks, tracking portfolio performance, conducting thorough analysis, and making necessary adjustments, you can effectively assess the effectiveness of your sector rotation strategy. Regular monitoring and evaluation will enable you to refine your approach and optimize the performance of your portfolio when evaluating the success of sector rotation decisions. Several key performance metrics can be used. These metrics provide insights into the performance, risk, and efficiency of the sector rotation strategy. Here are some important performance metrics to consider. Total return. Total return measures the overall performance of the sector rotation strategy, taking into account both capital appreciation or depreciation, and any income generated from dividends or interest. It reflects the percentage change in the portfolio's value over a specific period, including any cash flows. Annualized return. Annualized return calculates the average annual return of the sector rotation strategy over a specific period. It helps normalize returns and allows for meaningful comparisons between different investment strategies or benchmark indices. Risk-adjusted return. Risk-adjusted return measures the return of the sector rotation strategy relative to the amount of risk taken. Common risk-adjusted measures include the Sharpe ratio, which considers the excess return per unit of risk, typically measured by standard deviation, and the Sortino ratio, which focuses on the downside risk, measured by downside deviation or the standard deviation of negative returns. Tracking error. Tracking error measures the consistency of the sector rotation strategy's returns compared to the benchmark index. It quantifies the deviation of the strategy's returns from the benchmark's returns over a specific period. A lower tracking error indicates a closer alignment between the sector rotation strategy and the benchmark. Information ratio. The information ratio assesses the risk-adjusted excess return of the sector rotation strategy relative to the benchmark. It compares the strategy's active return, excess return over the benchmark, to the tracking error, indicating how much value the strategy adds relative to the risk taken. Sector allocation performance. Analyze the performance of individual sectors within the sector rotation strategy. Assess the contribution of sector selection and allocation decisions to the overall performance. Compare the returns of individual sectors with their respective benchmark indices to identify sectors that outperformed or underperformed. Drawdown. Drawdown measures the peak-to-trough decline in the value of the sector rotation portfolio during a specific period. It helps assess the magnitude of losses experienced by the strategy and the time taken to recover from those losses. Monitoring drawdowns provides insights into the strategy's risk exposure and potential downside risk. Turnover ratio. Turnover ratio measures the level of trading activity within the sector rotation strategy. It calculates the proportion of portfolio holdings that are bought or sold during a specific period. Higher turnover ratios may indicate more frequent sector rotations, potentially resulting in higher transaction costs and tax implications. Consistency and stability. Assess the consistency and stability of the sector rotation strategy's performance over different market conditions and economic cycles. Look for patterns of performance persistence and examine whether the strategy has consistently delivered results in line with its stated objectives. Benchmark comparison. Compare the sector rotation strategy's performance against the selected benchmark index to evaluate whether it has outperformed or underperformed the market. Consider both absolute performance, total return, and relative performance, risk-adjusted return, to gain a comprehensive understanding of the strategy's success. These performance metrics provide a comprehensive view of the sector rotation strategy's effectiveness, risk profile, and alignment with the intended objectives. It's important to consider these metrics in conjunction with other qualitative and quantitative factors to make well-informed evaluations of sector rotation decisions.